Hi, everybody. This is Getrude Matshe here in Wellington, New Zealand, and welcome again to the Her Story podcast. I have another inspiring woman coming to me all the way from the United States. Tania, welcome. How are you?
Hi, Getrude. It's brilliant to be with you. My name is Tania, and as you can tell from the accent, I actually didn't start in Texas, where I'm actually now from. I'm from the UK. I'm 52, and my journey started when I was a very small baby, and I was born in Hackney, in England, in 1967. I was a premature baby, and my mother had knitted a lilac baby suit because she didn't know if I was going to be a boy or a girl, but she wanted to dress me first because in fact that was going to be the first and last time she was going to touch me, because in that moment she was giving me up. She was relinquishing me to be put into an incubator because I was early, and I stayed in the incubator for about 3 weeks. And then I was put into a foster care with a foster mother, while the adoption agency got me ready for my mum and dad, who were really ready to meet me. And my father had said when they couldn't have children, the one thing he wanted was a blonde-haired and blue-eyed boy. And so when the agency said, well, we've got a dark-haired girl, they thought, well, it's not really what we want. But they came and saw me, and apparently his eyes filled up and he said, that's my girl. So far from getting the boy they thought, they got me. And I was apparently very weak. And when my grandfather saw me, he thought, she's not going to survive. You know, he didn't think that I was going to be the fighter that I turned out to be. So I had this lovely childhood. My brother was adopted when I was about 3.5. Guess what he was? The blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy. And I think I had a bit of a shock, because when there's no pregnancy, and as much as you'll have been told, it's, you know, you've gone in a taxi, the next thing you know, you've come back with a baby, and mum's actually paying a lot of attention to this little thing. I think it was a big shock to myself that there was this usurper, you know, who is this boy? So it took me till about 15 before he and I actually found our common ground. And we had a bit of a battled childhood between us. You know, we'd throw cars at each other when we were playing. We would never end our games together in a good way, because we'd always end up being in battles. But, you know, the lovely thing to say, just to add in there, is that we're great friends now. But this little beginning of mine, at the very beginning of my life, I have come to realize was so important in terms of who I've become, because who I've become is somebody who really seeks and sees people's essences. And I try to help them as a coach and sort of emotional wellness specialist to help people unpick their lives so that they can actually see what the purposes of all of their past experience. And when I was in that incubator, I've come to realize that I was alone. I was really, truly the baby that didn't have anybody watching out for them, except for the nurses and except for the doctor. And it allowed me to be the blank baby, the baby that had no family, the baby that they were keeping alive and well and nurturing. And I realized that they could love me truly, because there wasn't a mum in the wings, and they could really give themselves to me. So I'm sure I got wonderful, excellent care. But in that little bubble of my own, I realized what it is to be truly yourself, because I know that being isolated and to feel that we're alone in the world is sometimes quite scary for everybody that's has that experience. But ultimately, we are here on our own, and to find a way of reaching out, because what became one of my strongest things was to actually have authentic communication and connection with people. And so I have, like, I don't know if you remember Avatar, but they had these tendrils.
Yes,
they had. And when I saw that, Right. And that was it. When I saw that, and you connect and then you transfer the information and the knowledge and the emotion that you're feeling through that tendril, I realized that that is what I am here to do, is to connect with people and create the tendrils so that people can be seen. Because in the moment of feeling unseen and unknown, I created a kind of void for myself, that's what I want to be able to see in others. And it translated in a playground that I would watch the kid that's sort of on her own, and I would go and protect her. I would come and I would be the sort of person who would come and sort of include her. And, you know, it became sort of my strength to know intuitively how it feels to be that person. And so I learnt as much as I could, really, about different people's strengths and what they bring to the table. And when I spoke to my mum about this particular girl, she goes, "Oh, Tania, why do you always pick up lame ducks?" And it was only when I was older that I realized, no, I'm not picking up lame ducks. I'm seeing people for who they are. I'm not allowing the stigma of who other people see them as to shift the sort of shining essence of who they are.
Oh, so, wow. So you actually used what was your starting point, and it gave you almost like a supernatural power to be able to tune into those people who are feeling that void and who are feeling alone, correct?
Yeah, I would say so. And, you know, I didn't necessarily have this wisdom for myself until later in my journey, when I've done quite a lot of living in my world, doing the right things, you know, turning up as the daughter, you know, everybody, you know, I was a very nice person. I was a happy person and everything. But on my 30th birthday, I had a group of people in my house, lots of people. And I was having this moment where I was looking around the room and saying, do these people reflect me? And the answer was to myself, no, they don't. Maybe that one, but the others they're great, but this isn't who I am. And so then my next question to myself was, well, who am I? And I was like, I don't actually know. I just know that this doesn't feel like, I'm not feeling proud of this being who I am. So that sent me on a journey of self-discovery and to actually find my birth mother. And
wow.
So that took 4 years to find her, because in those days there wasn't the internet. I literally had to trawl through these different, you know, birth and death and marriage things to find everybody, and then you find the certificate, and then that leads you another clue to the next thing. And but in this journey, I had my own discovery of who I was. So part of the lovely journey of this is to come back to the beginning and realize that my strengths and who I've become has come from the very beginning, where I felt that I was, my perception was that I was rejected at this moment, that I was alone at this moment. And when I realized that actually there isn't actually a time when you are on your own, and that you're not lost without being found. You're not rejected without being received. And so when I could see that I was being received by those nurses and the doctors, because that was who was on hand, and so I could see
literally like it was two sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't see it like that.
No. Yeah, and that's exactly it.
This quest that you were on to find your biological mother, a lot of people who are adopted have got that urge, that yearning to finally connect with the person who brought you into the world. How did that work for you?
Well, it's interesting. She actually died a couple of years ago, and I did meet her eventually. It took 4 years for me to find her, and then there was a 2-year gap before I actually met her. And that was partly because there's more to everybody's story. And as much as it's, you know, there's a fantastic story for the adoptee, there's a fantastic story for the birth mother. Yeah. And when I actually eventually got her to well, the contact was made, and it was a really interesting time. I'd spent 4 attempts at trying to be in touch with her. I'd gone through an intermediary twice, 3 times over a year, and they said, look, we can't do any more because this is stalking if we keep going. So they said, but if you really want to, you can try and send something directly. And so on the 3rd letter went on my birthday, thinking, gosh, if she doesn't make the connection today on my birthday, then and then I thought, well, this final one, I'll send it on her birthday. And I made a little chart, and I put some photographs of myself and my kids, and I just said, look, I'm not asking for anything, but here I am.
Yes.
And that day by now I didn't care at all if I was going to get a response. I kind of just did it, and just because I've been sort of let down by the other ones. And I went out with a friend, and we had a meal, and my phone, which was a new thing, a mobile phone, was next to me, and it went off, and I was like, oh God, I'm a bit embarrassed. I don't normally do this, but it was a strange number, and I thought I must just take this outside. And I said, hello. And she goes, yes, hi, Tania. She goes, I think I'm your sister.
Oh.
And I went, really? She goes, yes, I've just turned up at my mum's house to wish her happy birthday. And she's on the doorstep holding all these pieces of paper saying, is this for real? Is this for real? Does she really exist? And so my sister basically looked at all of these pieces of paper and said, Mum, yes, this person exists. But what she also found out was that she had a sister. And what she also found out was that Mum had a lot of stories that she had actually had other children. She had another son who she'd had adopted. And she'd had other children who'd died in pregnancy, and things are quite sad. And so, in fact, she'd gone through 5 pregnancies and only had one that she brought up herself.
Oh.
So this was a window that she allowed herself to be seen, and the window within days closed over. And by the time I met her, there wasn't any other conversation to be had. She would only really talk about superficial things. She wouldn't remember things for me. So the journey was interesting, because we have this fantasy that when I find her, she can answer all my questions.
Yes.
What I found was that she wasn't able to. Psychologically, whatever pressure she felt under, she couldn't answer those things. So we ended up having a sort of a good relationship, but it was only for lunch occasionally and only superficial. And
what a pity. How did it make you feel? That was quite a journey you were on.
Well, I had 2 things. I thought, well, she's the only one who knows who my birth father is, so she'll give me the inside edge. No, she says, I can't tell you. I was ending up telling her what I knew, and she was like, if I have to remember anything about that, my head will burst. So I was like, oh. And then there was another point, is what time was I born? It's like most people have that piece of information.
Yes.
And she couldn't tell me that either. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to find these things out. So that's led me to another realization, which is that the unknown and the known are not necessarily as bad as all that. And we think we're going to want to know, but in fact, what we find out isn't as what we imagine. And then
yes,
right. And then likewise, the other side, the unknown, can actually be easier, because it's where we can create our fantasies and our imagination can go mad. I mean, the reality of who everybody really is, it poofs all of these stories that we've had about who we are.
Yes.
And I've realized that truth is truly not only in the eye of the beholder, but really subjective to different moments. As soon as you find out another piece of information, your truth has to shift.
Yeah. So okay, one of the things I've been asking all the women who've come on this podcast series is, from what you know now, if you were to talk to your younger self, what 3 nuggets of advice would you give her about this quest that you had been on?
I would definitely say, have the courage of your convictions. Because I think that one of the things that's happened is that I would adjust, I would project what somebody might be thinking, and then I would adjust my actions or behaviors. So I would definitely say have the courage of your convictions. I would definitely tell her to shine bright. There's so much to be proud of, and we kind of, as soon as somebody else we think shines brighter, we kind of think, oh, I don't need to shine like that. And I would say just shine, and just just run the race, win it. If you win it, great. If you don't worry, but just get on with it. Don't worry about what other people think. And the third thing, I would just say, speak your truth more often. I think that I stayed in relationships when I should have just left. And, that sort of ties into the courage of, if I just said what I was thinking or feeling, speaking my truth is, I think it's so much cleaner, so much, you get to, sometimes when you're on your deathbed, you start speaking the truth to everybody, all of the battles that you're having just go away, and you start being really real. And I would say just get on with that. Be real.
It doesn't have to be on your deathbed.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be when, it really, you realize just how superficial that argument was, just get going, just get going, being.
Oh, I love it. Wow. I thank you so much for coming online and sharing with us today. What an amazing story.
Thank you. And well, let's just be of it.
Alive? Is your mom alive?
No, my mom died. She died a couple of the year before last. Yeah.
Okay. But you're still connected to your sister?
Well, no, in fact, that was the sort of strange thing, is that she cut herself off.
Oh.
As soon as my mum died, she told me that she died, and I was asking questions about how it happened, and she didn't respond. And I think that the thing was is that it was a massive ordeal for her. But I don't know. I can never really know. I've sent her a couple of messages, but it's also about understanding about that kind of thing, is that, being balanced in your thinking around why things happen the way they do. And I'm not cross with her. I just wish I had more understanding. But I think that's the of the beast. I think that I've had so much of this knowing and unknowing, and I've been looking at it so much that actually, when it's time, if she's ready, she'll come back. And if I feel inspired, I'll send her I'll reach out again.
Sometimes you just have to let some of these things go. Wow.
Yeah, or just let them be in the journey of what it is,
Yes. When she's ready to come back, she may or may not. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. We look forward to hearing you speak at the HerStory conference around the world. Hopefully we'll bring you to New Zealand and Australia as well.
Yeah, it'd be lovely. It'd be fantastic.
Thank you so much, Tania.
Thank you.
Glad I got to catch up with you today.
Yes, thanks, Getrude.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.